What's up guys, this is Vishal from Savage Camp and today we are going to talk about Linux permissions. So permissions are one of the most important things in Linux, and if I touch a file, which is if I create a file, not a file, multiple files, you will see the permissions it gets by default, which is this random characters that we are seeing over here. So what do these stand for? So I have an article on this that I wrote way back in 2013, I think. You can find it in geekstarts.tech. And over here, if you come down in Linux file permissions in Linux, which is over here, you will see a detailed explanation of this. So I'm pulling this out because of this thing. So let me copy this and put it over here. So what this is actually this representation. So what this means is the first one will tell us if it is a file or directory. And you can see that if I do a mkdir directory 1 and if I do an ll, you will see that the directory 1 has a D over here. The files that we created do not have a D. So the D, the D actually stands for directory. So if there's no D over here, it means it's a file. And what do D stands for? So if I copy this again and paste it over here, you will see there are three sections. The first section is for users. So this section will tell what the permissions of the users are. This section is going to tell what the permissions of the groups are, and the third one is going to tell what the permissions of others are. So if you see over here, it says the first is directory, second is read write execute for user, the third one, which is this one, is for groups, and the fourth one is for others. Yeah, for others. So what you need to do is to change permissions. You need an octal value, and the octal form of R is 4, W is 2, and X is 7. So what this means is if you want to represent this permissions in octal form, this would be 4 plus 2 plus 1. So this is 7. Let me bring my putty. So this is 4 plus 2 plus 1, which is 7. This is 4 and there's no right axis, so there's no 2. And this one is 1. So this one is 4 plus 1. Let me open my notepad and let me bring it over here and paste this thing. So if I do RWX, RWX and RWX, what this means is 4 plus 2 plus 1 is equal to 7. So what these permissions are 7, 7 and 7, which is for 7 for users, and then the groups is also 7 and others is also 7. But here what we have is this. So let me bring this out to the notepad and let's break this out. So the first three are users, the second three are groups, and the third three are others. So this one is 7, and over here you can see there's 4 and there's 1. There's no 2 for right. So let me put it over here. So this is R, W and X. So over here it's 4 plus 1, and if I go further it's again 4 plus 1. So these permissions are 7, 5 and 5. So this stands for 755. What this means is if someone, okay, so this one is for directory. Let me do this for the file. So I'll copy this whole thing again in a notepad and let me go down, paste it over here, divide it into 3 sections, and then write the values over here. So this is 4 plus 2, which is 6. This one is 4, and this one is also 4. So this whole is 644. So what this means is, if we want to do this as 755, we are going to use a command called chmod. So if you do a chmod minus minus help, you will see all the like the switches that we can use with chmod. But if I clear this up and if I do an ll, so this is the permissions now. So if I do ll file1 only to get file1, we are going to change this, which is 4644 read write, which is 6, 4 for read and 4 for read. So if I want to change this, I'm going to do chmod 755 and put file1. So if this is executed properly, if I do ll on file1, you will see the permissions have changed. So this one is rwx, which is 7. This one is rnx, which is 5. And this one is rnx, which is 5. So what if I do chmod 400 and do an ll on file1? It only gives a read permission to the user and nothing else, because everything is 0. And it's not a directory, so there's no D in here. So this one is how to change permissions with octal value. So there are various things you can do, which is chmod 600 file1, which means only the user can read and write into the file. So if I do an ll on file1, you will see read and write for the user. Always ignore the first one. The first one is going to tell you if it's a directory or a file. This is a file. And if I do an ll on dir1, you will see that this is a directory, so there's a D in here. But this is how you change permissions in octal form. So chmod, this one is file1, so this is 644, which is the default one, I think. Yeah, this is the default one. So once we have the octal form done, this is to change the permissions, not to change anything over here. This is called ownership. So this one is the user and this one is the group that the user belongs to. So the user can change this, the group can change this, and others can change this. So there's one more way we can modify the file permissions, and it is in the normal form. So if you want to add and execute permission to the user, you will do chmod u plus x, which is user, plus execute on file1. So let me do an ll on file1 and let me run this chmod u plus x file1, and I'll do ll on file1, and over here you can see the the execute permission has been added. So if I do chmod o plus x, so it means others would also be executable. So if I do an ll on file1, you can see it has added. So how do you change it for the group? You just change others to G. So you can see over here the execute has been added. So if I want to give write permissions to group, I can do G plus W, and there you will see the W has been added to RWX. What if you want to remove everything? So I'm going to do G minus RWX. Let's remove everything from the group. So now the group cannot do anything, and I also want to remove everything from others. So I'm going to remove the read and write from others, and if I do an ll on file1, you can see this is gone. So there are two ways you can do this. One is octal format. The octal format, you need to remember this: read is always 4 and write is always 2 and execute will always be 1, and the addition is what the permissions are. So if I do chmod 777 on file1 and I do an ll, you will see all the permissions are read, write, and execute. So basically, that is how you change permissions, and this is a very quick overview. Let me try something else. Let me clear the screen and let me do OG minus RX. Oh, so you can change it for group and others. So right now you won't see anything because everything was, oh, G minus R W X, and now you can see this is gone. So I can do U minus RWX, and this will remove for user group and others, it would remove read, write, and execute. So if I run this, you can see all the permissions are gone. And if I change this minus to plus, it will bring back all the permissions. So you can change for multiple users and groups by adding them together and putting the permissions that you want to change. So basically that's how you change directories and users permissions. And if you want to change something, so if I do see if I move everything to dir1, so move file to dir1, and if I do an ll on dir1, so this is inside directory 1. If I want to do 777 on everything, I would do chmod minus r for recursive, and I would do v, which is not needed, but v is for verbose, and then I would do 777, but let me do 000 on dir1, and I will put an asterisk for everything inside dir1. And over here you will see, because we did minus v, you will see the verbose, you will see it happening in real time. So this is how you change permissions for a file and a directory and files under directory recursively. So if you have any questions, just let me know in the comment section. Just reach out to me and I would be happy to help you in detail.